Welcome to True Love Story with Deep Love, where every heartbeat has a story to tell. Tonight, step into a world where love hides behind silence, where glances speak louder than words, and where a simple ring holds the weight of a lifetime. This is My Boss Bought Two Rings, a story of two souls bound by duty yet drawn by something deeper. It's about the love that never asked to be spoken, the devotion that lived between choices, and the invisible ring that time could never erase. Some love stories aren't about beginnings or endings. They're about the moments that stay. So close your eyes, listen closely, and feel every heartbeat of a love that dared to exist, quietly, endlessly, beautifully. He wasn't supposed to matter that much. It began quietly, almost invisibly, like a whisper between the spaces of work and routine. Mornings started with the soft sound of his footsteps, the faint click of a pen, the way he'd pause before speaking, always thinking first, always careful. There was nothing extraordinary in our beginning, yet everything about those small moments became impossible to forget. It's strange how connection grows without permission. Some days, it was the way his eyes met mine across the desk, steady, calm, but holding something unspoken. Other days, it was silence that said more than words ever could. We talked about work, deadlines, and clients, but beneath that surface, there was another conversation happening. One that lived between glances, in the softness of tone, in the stillness of air when neither of us spoke. He was older, composed, the kind of man who carried his life like a promise. There was a calm in him that made the noise of the world fade away. Whenever he smiled, it was gentle, as if he was afraid it might reveal too much. Maybe that's what made it impossible not to notice the effort he put into not crossing lines, even when emotion trembled at the edge of every breath. Days turned into weeks, and the office became more than just a workplace. It was a quiet confession, unspoken but alive. When he passed by, the world seemed to slow down. His voice, even when talking to others, carried an undertone I could always recognize. And yet nothing was ever said, no words of love, no promises, just the quiet ache of something that couldn't be named but refused to fade. Sometimes it felt like the air between us carried too much, too many almosts, too many what-ifs. He'd ask for a file, and our fingers would almost touch. Just almost. He'd look away first every time, as if saving me from something I already knew. I could sense the restraint in him, the quiet storm he never allowed to spill over, and I matched that silence, holding it like something sacred. There were moments when I caught him watching, not out of curiosity, but from somewhere deeper, where feelings have no language. Once, late evening, the office empty and the world asleep. He stood by the window, lost in thought. When he turned, our eyes met, and for that one suspended breath, it felt like the universe had stopped to listen. Nothing was said, nothing needed to be. The truth was already there, in the stillness between us. That's how it began, not with words, but with quiet understanding. A connection that asked for nothing, yet gave everything. Two souls working side by side, bound by duty, drawn by something deeper neither dared to name. Every glance held questions, every silence carried warmth, and sometimes the deepest love isn't found in what is spoken, but in what is quietly felt and never forgotten. The day he brought the rings, everything inside the room shifted, quietly but completely. They looked ordinary at first, wrapped in a small velvet box, resting on his desk as if they belonged there. He spoke about them casually, like it was just another errand he had to run, just another thing to check off his list. But his voice trembled slightly when he said he bought two. One, he explained, was for duty, the one everyone would see. It was meant for someone waiting at home, someone who had a rightful place in his life. It was beautiful, simple, and full of meaning. I listened, smiling faintly, pretending not to feel the sharp pull beneath the calm, because in that moment I understood something I had tried so hard not to acknowledge. Love sometimes chooses silence over confession. He didn't tell me about the second ring until later. It was hidden, quietly kept in the drawer beside him. No name engraved, no story told, just a circle of metal carrying everything that could never be said aloud. He didn't say who it was for, but the silence between us made it clear. Some things are too pure, too complicated to belong to the world's definitions. Every time he opened that drawer, even to take out a pen, my heart would ache. It wasn't jealousy, it was something softer, heavier. The kind of ache that comes from knowing you're part of something beautiful that can never be claimed. That second ring was never worn, but it held every glance, every pause, every heartbeat we had tried to hide. He once said, almost under his breath, that love isn't always about choosing. Sometimes it's about carrying. I remember how his words lingered in the air, how they settled inside me like quiet truth. I never asked which ring meant more. Maybe he didn't know himself. Maybe both were parts of him. One, the man he had to be, the other, the man he wished he could be. After that day, nothing between us changed, and yet everything did. The world still saw the ring he wore, but the one he kept hidden stayed with me, not as possession, but as a silent bond between two hearts that learned to love without taking, to feel without needing to own. Some loves are not meant to be worn on fingers or declared aloud. They live quietly, in drawers, in glances, in memory, eternal not because they lasted, but because they were true. It happened on an ordinary evening, the kind that slips quietly between hours, unnoticed by the world, but remembered forever by two hearts. The office lights were dim, the sky outside fading into gold and gray. He stood near his desk, his hand resting on the small box that had once held both rings. I could feel something different in the air, the kind of silence that carries a truth too heavy to hide anymore. He looked at me for a long time before speaking. There was no smile this time, no polite calm to shield what was trembling inside him. He opened the drawer, and there they were, both rings. The first one, gleaming in the faint light, was the one he had always shown the world. It carried the story of promises made, of responsibilities he never turned away from. The second, resting quietly beside it, looked almost the same, yet it held everything unsaid. He didn't need to explain. The moment spoke for him. Years of restraint, of unspoken glances, of quiet understanding, they all rose to the surface at once. His hands trembled slightly, and for the first time, I saw the weight of what he carried. Love and duty, both alive, both real, yet impossible to hold at the same time. He picked up the hidden ring, the one that had never been worn, and placed it on the desk between us. His eyes searched mine as if asking for forgiveness for something neither of us had done wrong. The room felt too small for the emotion it held. I could feel my heartbeat echoing in the silence, each beat a confession we never spoke aloud. There were no words of love that evening, no promises of forever, just the truth, raw, fragile, and finally unhidden. The truth that love had existed quietly between us all along, that it had grown in the spaces where words dared not to go. He said only one thing, barely more than a whisper.